I'd love to introduce Ricardo Tayar. He's going to talk about managing conversion through digital metrics, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm Ricardo Tayar, and I'm the smiling guy wearing black t-shirt in the middle. These are my partners, my main partners, and this is part of my team. We are a CRO, an analytics company based in Spain, but we work along all Europe for Dutch, France market, etc. We work mainly in e-commerce and transactional sites. Okay, what we do is just working in conversion. What we do is just to be very focused on managing conversion and trying to improve results. This is a typical example about what we do. As you can see here is what I call the perfect storm, because we are working in this site just for improving conversion rates, but also profits, as you can see here, and also transactions, all these kind of things. Besides, we always try to boost conversion, to improve conversion rates, but also managing cost. You know, maybe it's the better thing is to be with best results, just spending less money than before. Okay, so we all like to measure conversion. That's something that probably we all agree. But everything and everyone is just looking on this kind of KPIs. If we can call this a KPI, everything is looking all day about e-commerce conversion rate, or all the goals conversion rate that we have set up before in our Google Analytics or analytics tool that we are using. Which is the main problem, that we cannot manage conversion. Why? Why we cannot manage conversion? Because conversion is a consequence. It's not a metric you can work directly in. You cannot work directly in conversion. You cannot do anything to boost or to improve conversion. What you have to do is just to understand how conversion works. All the pulls and all the pushes that you have to play with just to manage conversion, and this is the things that you have to be really focused on to do a good job in conversion. So what should we measure to find useful insights? Because if we see all the time the typical analytics reports, we are going to see a lot of metrics, a lot of KPIs, a lot of Excel sheets, all these kind of things, but we will not very sure that if we have to make anything. I mean, okay, I'm seeing a lot of metrics, but what I have to do to improve my conversion. Okay, so one of the main things that you have to do is just not thinking in conversion. Just we have to start thinking in tasks, and then thinking the interactions that compose a task. I mean, okay, we are all very used to work with analytics tools, and we are all very used to use reporting and to use reports and to make some kind of analysis with these reports. But we have to think all the time that people, that users, have to do anything that we propose with only one screen. That's the only thing that we have in digital environment. Just one screen. Doesn't matter if it's a desktop screen or a mobile screen. In just one screen, you have to do, or you have to be able to do very complicated tasks, and also very easy ones. Just you can buy a car using just one screen. You never touch the car. You are not going to drive it. But okay, I can buy it just using only one screen. That's why it's very important to know which interactions compose a task. That's why one of the first things that we can do is just to identify all the tasks that a user can do along a site or an application. For example, in this case, it's just an example. We are talking about an easy task that is find a product just using search box, because we also can find a product using navigation menus or every kind of navigation that we have on the website or in the application. So next step, okay, I have my task. My task is find a product just using your search box. What I have to do is to identify which are the main interactions that I have along a simple task. For example, as you can see, a simple task like find a product using search box has several interactions, several main interactions. Click on input field, just insert a query, click on search button, access to results page, just click on a result. If a user do all these interactions, we can say that the conversion rate of this task is 100%. So I think we all agree with that. Okay, just one step beyond. There are also secondary interactions. For example, we can refine a query, or for example, click on search suggestions. Several times we have a search box, and below the search box we have several keywords or terms that are suggesting you what you have to search for example. So next step is just we have to think in interactions and the metric that is correct for each interaction. So in this case, just a click on input field, it's a star interaction, something that we can measure with some tools. In this case, refine query is just refocus search. Click on search suggestion is just a click on event tracking, time on page, or click on event tracking. And after this, we have to think in which tool we are going to use to measure these things. For example, in this case, a tool that we can use for star interaction or refocus search is maybe Sarget. There are also other ones similar to this, but this is one. And if we want to measure clicks, or if we want to measure some type of events, of course, we can use Google Analytics. So this is a very easy exercise that it's very, very useful, just to be sure that what kind of interactions you have to measure, what kind of interaction you have to watch, just to be sure that you are doing right, because these interactions are part of the main task of your site. So that's what you have to think of. Which are the main tasks of your site? Which are the things that users have to do to achieve the business goals that you have set along your site? So how can I know all the interactions a user is going to perform along a task? Because this is not so easy. I can suppose, or I can guess, but it's not a healthy way of working, because guessing is not a good thing if you are playing with sites that maybe are used by hundreds or thousands or millions of people. Guessing is so much risk. So one of the main things that we can do is just a user test. This is just an image, sorry, because it's written in Spanish, but this is a real test that we are doing with a user. Here you have the user, and this is one of the team's guy that is working with this user. And this user, as you can see, have a special ring here in one of the fingers, and this ring is measuring not only what she's doing, but also it is measuring what you can, your heartbeat, and all this kind of physical metrics. So I'm not going to play it because, as you can see, we are having several technical problems with my screen. But here, what you have, it's a video where we can see what is doing this user along a task. We have said to this user, please go to a concrete category of this site and go to a specific product. And we are watching here what is the user doing just to arrive to that kind of product. But this is a good way, a very good way, to really know which kind of interactions the user is going to do along a task. This is a very useful way to identify which are the interactions that compose a task. Typical thing is that we have maybe not more than between 7 and 10 tasks in a e-commerce site or a transactional site. Maybe 5, 6, 7 tasks. And each task, generally speaking, maybe has, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 interactions per task. So we have to measure maybe across the whole site, maybe we have to measure 80, 90, even 100 interactions. So once we know which are the interactions that compose a task, we have to identify these metrics. How can we do it? Yeah, it's very easy, because we are able to recognize which kind of interactions compose a task. What we can do in this case, this is an e-commerce that we work with, that's selling diamond rings. And as you can see, because we were watching users along user testing to be sure which kind of interactions they do, we know that everyone that it's thinking in buying one of these rings has one main questions that is very important to be able to clarify. This question is, which is my finger size? Because if I have to buy a ring, I need to know the finger size. But in most cases, you don't know the finger size of the woman or the man that you are buying the ring for. So this is why here one of the main interactions is just this one, view size guide. It's very important in this task, the task of buying a ring, because if you don't know which are the sizes, you are not going to buy it. So that's why it's very important to identify which are the interactions along a task. And that's why you have to measure how these interactions are working across your site. And that's why here, as you can see, we have a small piece of code that it's an event tracking for Google Analytics. So as soon as we are measuring this, what we can see across behavior reports, and if I go to top events, I can see several events that I have defined across this site. And I can see in the e-commerce report how important these interactions are in terms of conversion. So this is very useful because I can really know which interactions are very important for conversion, for final conversion. So that's why I need to know how these interactions are working. As you can see, the average conversion level of this site is 1%. And as you can see, in some of these interactions, if these interactions are well played and people is going well across these interactions, as you can see, maybe I'm able to have even a 12% conversion rate. Of course, this is Google Analytics, but also we can use target. This, I don't know if you can see this, but these are field names. So I can really know which amount of users is starting to playing with an input field, which amount of users need to refocus on an input field because it's not clear what they are written or what they have to do. And also we can see what amount of corrections do you have in any input field. So this is also a very useful way to measure interactions with input fields in this case. So now that you have a clear view of the interactions that are giving you sales or other kind of benefits, I don't know, what we start to do is just we have to work with confidence intervals. And with confidence intervals, what we are going to do is just to take a look to the average percentage of any metric that we want to measure. For example, in this case, we have an average mean metric that its main value, its average value, it's 1.5%. And we are going to give us an confidence interval of 0.2. So everything that is going on upper margin 1.8, we are going to put in green, and everything that is lower margin, maybe 1.2, this is so 2%. We are going to think that this is not so good. So if we play with this along all these metrics that we have set up, we can find things like this. Okay, if my average conversion here is 1.14, and I have defined that my confidence interval is 20% of this percentage, we can see here numbers that are lower than the average data. And this is something that we have to be sure that interactions are playing well. This is our browsers. So maybe in these browsers, my main interactions are not working properly, probably with a technology problem that doesn't allow users to do all the interactions that they need for each task. So every interaction or metrics that is higher than your confidence interval is working okay. So what you have to do is just to be sure that this is working okay, and you have to maintain this kind of interaction level. And of course, with those metrics that are not working, you have to start making some hypotheses, because maybe this is not working, but we don't know why. So that's why we have to start working with, okay, what kind of things can be happening here that are giving us so bad results in interaction. And in this case, you have to start playing with maybe information design, interaction design, browsers, and all this kind of things. After that, turn hypotheses into actions, and then measure the impact of those actions in the change that you are going to do in the site once they are done. And that's all for me. That's what I want to talk about. And just to be sure that it's very important to really know which are the interactions that the users have to do to complete a task. If you don't know that you are not going to measure that kind of interactions, probably you will be very lost if you want to manage conversion, because, as I said before, you cannot manage conversion directly. You really need to know which are the interactions that your users need to do to complete a task. So first of all, identify your task, and after that, please identify the interactions for each task. And each interaction should be a metric, and each metric has to be their own goals. So thank you.